Hello guys, welcome back. Here's another setup for y'all. Here we are today in France for the French GP. And unfortunately, I forgot to record my fastest lap, so you will not be able to see my brakes and throttle input. But nevertheless, we have the fastest lap over here. It was done using a time trial setup, but I have set a almost quick lap using a race setup, so I will reveal the setup at the end. So for now, let's quickly have a look at this fastest lap that we have done, and then I'll go through the setup and the explanation at the end. So enjoy the fastest lap. See you at the end. And there we go. So that's the setup done. Now let's just quickly restart the session so I can show you the setup. I have, like I said, done it on a time trial setup. So here we are. Let me just load that setup again. And here you can see it's a 10.7. I think it's 10.8 for the world record setup, but I was just trying on the different things. On the only thing I lowered was the arrow on the rear wing. So 10.7, 158, doesn't matter, right? This setup doesn't matter because it's a time trial setup anyway. If you're gonna go fast over one lap, 5 laps maybe, yeah, this setup is viable. But for a long distance race, 25 and above, especially in 50, where most leagues are, you do not want to be running this aggressive of a setup. So I'm not the kind of person who can handle such a loose car on the rear. I like it loose a bit on the rear, a bit loosey goosey, but not too loose. Otherwise, once the tires start to wear out, you start to lose grip. The rear is not compliant anymore, and once the rear starts to go off, you really start to lose space if you can't control the car. That's what happens most of the time to us. So as you'll see in the next setup, my own setup, which I've modified from this baseline, there are some key differences. So here we are. Let's load up the good old front setup. Arrow is the same, 10.7. France is a surprisingly high aero track. You can gain a lot of time in the corners, and you'd think that France, given that it has a lot of full throttle zones, long straights, you'd want to go maybe something low aero or something like this. But trust me, if you do that, yeah, you are going to be fast on the straights, but your exits are going to be meh. And with a poor exit, you're not going to go anywhere on the straights. And the important thing to note as well in France is that the DRS, slipstream, and battery are very, very powerful, right? So if you're in someone's toe with DRS and you just punch a bit of battery power, you're gaining about almost a second on the two straights if you manage to get the overtake done. So that's how powerful it is. So you want a bit of higher aero here, just so you can make sure you are catching up in the early parts of first sector and the entire third sector. That's where you're going to make up the most of your time. Once you latch onto someone's DRS, they're not getting away. All right, you can just sit at their back, save your DRS, save your ERS, my bad, and you know, when the time is right, make the move, perhaps go for an undercut or a no cut. It's your call. So 10-7 on the arrow. If it's a wet setup, I'll just recommend you go to 11-8 or 11-9. That perfectly works in the full wets. If it's inters, I'd say, you know, 11-8 would be the max I'd go. I don't want to go any further than this, otherwise you know, the car is just not feeling great. Transmission, here's pretty much the same 100 on the on throttle. That's so you get the best initial traction. However, in the race, in the quali, you can definitely run 100%. That's not going to affect it because you have maximum grip. In the qualifying, after that, maybe on the mediums, if you're trying to do a medium lap, 95 or 90 will work since you're in park firming, right? Off throttle is also adjustable in park firming, but not during race time. So you want to make sure you're running 57 at least in the race, 58 if you need a bit more stability on the rear. But in quali, you can probably go 56. That gives you a bit more turning, but makes the car a bit misbehave sometimes if you take too much curb, or if you know, going too fast or whatnot. 57 is just a nice balance that I found. In the race, on throttle, you can definitely adjust. Don't go any lower than 80. Personal recommendation here, because when you lower it too much, you generate too much wheel spin once you start to accelerate, so that can actually backfire. So somewhere around 90 would be a good amount to keep during the race, especially if you're following people and whatnot. You're not really going to go on the throttle that hard where you need to make an overtake. If you do need to, shoot it up to 100, go for an overtake and whatnot, try for it. Suspension, geometry, right, left, left, left. It's the standard. Works super well here because you're going to be getting a lot of mid-corners grip and rotation through the rear camber here. Front camber, absolute stability. Rear toe and front toe, don't touch it at all. Suspension, this is where things get fun. I'll come to this in a moment. Brakes, 150, no question about this. It is a track where the front tire wear is more than the rear, and also, you know, partly because of the long right-handers, left-handers. It's a long corner circuit here, so you will be having more front tire wear. You want to make sure your brake bias is always on 50. Push all the load to the rear. In some cases where, you know, you might want to preserve the rear, if you're getting more rear tire wear for some reason, or if your rear is just sliding under braking or whatnot, in quali maybe you can bump it up to 51. I found that to be the best solution. 52 might just lock your fronts a lot, so 50 or 51, always run 50. Tire pressures, these are again personal preference, but again important to note in a race in France, especially if you're starting on the softs on a full race fuel load, your softs are going to overheat a lot. Maximum I can go is 23.0 psi. This gives me just about 100, 102, 103 degrees while I'm in the corner, right? While I'm riding through the corner. On the exit, it's no higher than 103, so that's fine. So you have some pretty long straights or short straights to cool down the tires. If they go down to around 98, 97 degrees, you know, you're okay to take the next corner without losing any grip. If mid corner you're having your tire temps more than 105, you definitely want to reduce this. But if you're considering starting on the alternate strategy, say starting on the hards or on the mediums, then definitely run it as high as you can without generating too much temperatures. 23.0, 23.4, that's the max I would go. Rear pressures, always keep it at maximum in this game. That gives you absolute maximum stability that you need through high speed corners, which there are plenty around here. And also it reduces tire wear. Somehow it's a weird correlation. High tire pressures somehow mean less tire wear, but that doesn't mean it's going to be hotter, right? But here the rear tire temps are under control. Now let's go back to suspension. This is where most of the customization comes in. Person to person it may differ. One on the suspension. Front suspension and front anti-roll bar, always keep it at 1. That's the golden rule. That gives you maximum turn-in on the front. Rear suspension and rear anti-roll bar is where you generate most of your time. Rear suspension, I keep it at 1 so that the car feels, just nice over curbs. It may affect initial turning into corners, but if you are using your brakes well, or if you're following someone, you're not necessarily going to be like throwing the car into the corner to catch anyone, right? So 1-1, perfectly good over here. 1-2, maybe the maximum I'd go. There aren't too many harsh curves, but if you take it wrongly or you accelerate too much on the curves, yeah, then it's going to be deadly. 1-1, just nice. Rear anti-roll bar, this is the one that will give you the rotation on the rear as well. If your car is understeering, increase this so that you get more turning on the rear. If your car is oversteering, so that means your rear is just running away all the time, going into a spin, you may drop this to 4 or 5. That's perfectly fine. And again, ride height, it's also personal preference. Normally you'd run something like 2-7. On the front it's 2, on the rear it's 7. This is kind of like the golden rule that works across all tracks in the game. But if you really want to gain some extra thousands or even tenth, maybe sometime, no, it doesn't matter. You're not going to gain tenths by making this small adjustment, but it's definitely going to affect how your car feels. When you lower the rear ride height, the car it's low to the ground, center of gravity is lower, so it's more stable, right? You can feel the car is like kind of planted. But if you go too low, you risk yourself bottoming out, going through high speed corners. So say something like Cobbs in Silverstone, right, where you're taking it flat and there's a lot of steering input, that will bottom out the car. In France, there are also plenty of long corners here, but it's not full throttle. The only fast corner that you're going full throttle is the seniors, right? After the double long straight, the double right-hander, that's the longest part that you're going full throttle for some moments. So 1.6 still works here. Lowering the front ride height gives you a bit more turning. But in some cases, if you feel you're losing the car, under braking, your front is too unstable, you can increase the ride height. This will increase your straight line speed a little bit, but it's not going to change the world, right? It's not like you're going to gain like 5 extra kph all of a sudden. It's very minor change. It's going to improve your handling. Ride height, if you're scared of running 1.6, you can just run 2.7 or 1.7, that's fine. Never go below 6 for the rear ride height, and for the front ride height, never go above 2. In some tracks, in certain scenarios, you can definitely run 3 or 4. That's very circumstantial. But with this suspension that we have and roll bar that we have, this is perfect. All right. So yep, that's about it. So let's have a recap of the setup. 10.7, perfect for the race and also in qualifying. You don't really need to chuck it up to 11 on qualifying. If you want, you can as well. Might help in the rain if you're getting a lot of understeer in the quali or in the race if it's raining. In any case, 10.7. I do not like to drop my front wing in the pits for this track, for the sole purpose of keeping the front tires alive. If I drop it, I'm gonna overwork the fronts. That's gonna induce even more tire on the front. So I'm keeping it like this. I found it to be better on a long distance space. Probably I gain about 5 seconds compared to running 9.7 on the stint. So that's a lot of time. Transmission always 157 here, 90 in the race, 80 in the race is fine. Right, left, left, left for the geometry. Do not run away from this. Suspension is where you'll find time again. So if you need to understand how each of these works, you can rewind the video and go back to rear suspension and rear anti-roll bar and how you generate some time. Brakes 150, no question. Rear tire pressure is always maximum. Front tire pressures, nothing more than 23.0 here. So 23.0 or lower, that's your perfect number you're looking for. If it's raining in the race, a small caveat here, it can benefit by running, lower tire pressures just because you lock up more frequently in the rain, and also it helps with keeping the car a bit stable. So something like this, maybe 2 clicks lower in the rain, and that's all you're gonna do. So just keep it kind of equal. So my range setup would probably be like this, maybe. Or you can just stick to your normal tire pressures if you want to. If it's changeable conditions, if it's gonna dry up soon or it's starting dry, you might as well run a full dry setup so you're quick in the dries at least. So yeah, that's how France works, and that's about it. So make sure you leave a like, subscribe as well, leave your comments, and how do you feel about the setup. If there's anything's different that you tried from this baseline that help you to maybe win your race or get a faster lap, so let me know. Remember, it's a race setup, not a time trial setup. All right, so use it wisely using your race, and hope you have some good luck with it. Take care everyone, stay safe. It's been a long video today, kind of, you know, explaining how to set up your car and whatnot, and why do I set it up in a certain way. Hope you appreciate that, and it has been requested, and see you next time. Next track would be Austria. Although I have done it, I might revisit the setup if I get a faster setup, or I'll just, you know, share my race setup again in a similar kind of style. So yep, that should be it.